Good evening, good afternoon or good morning, no matter where you are around the world. My name is Karen Griffith. I'm an I'm an an embodiment coach. And today I thought we'll talk about the third and last key skill I believe is important to learn as we navigate uncharted waters in terms of how you can apply it to embodying more rest, relaxation and recovery if you're on a healing journey. Now, I've written plenty of notes, so you're going to hear my paper shuffling about, and also because I'm by my window, I thought you might like to take a look at my salt lamp, which I find very therapeutic on an evening when I'm chilling. I thought I'd just let you know about that, and also some background noise because I'm right by the window, so you'll occasionally hear some shouting from the revellers on the weekend. No matter, here we are. I'll just quickly recap the last two skills that I mentioned. Mindfulness, which is to enable you to bring about more presence, more conscious presence to what you're doing every day, so that you can start to interrupt what you need to interrupt, to take time out for yourself to rest, relax and recover. The second thing, I believe, the skill is creativity. It was a shorter live. I hope that you'll check these both out. They're both on YouTube. So as you know, I'm building my channel brick by brick, and I do have expectations that it's going to take me a bit longer because of the amount of time I have available to me to deliver these lives, because as I mentioned on one of my posts, my priority is myself, my clients, then what I offer freely as content, in case anybody is interested in working with me on a deeper level. So that aside, let's get into it, shall we? So, why did I feel it was important? I keep on mentioning it, and I'll mention it again. Technology is not designed to support or make space for your rest. It's really important you understand it so that you start to factor it into your decision making moving forward. And right on cue, I can hear noises all over the place. No matter, I hope you stick with me. So, in the advent of AI, in which it's predicted or it's anticipated there will be a wave of job losses, somewhere in the region of 40% of jobs will be replaced by AI over the next 5 years, 41% I believe. I actually think it's going to happen a lot sooner than that. I'd give it 2 to 3. We're already seeing major companies like Microsoft and Facebook reduce their head count in their respective companies. So I think and believe it's really important that you start to take on board some of what I'm saying, so that you start to work on my suggestions and my ideas to try on, so that no matter what happens, a lot of which will be unforeseen, I suspect, you're in a better position to pivot. Hence why the suggestion of mindfulness, so that you practice slowing down, being more than doing. creativity so that you're bringing more of a better quality of experience to your life, so that you embrace and enjoy the things that you can remember from your childhood, or any passions that you were curious about pursuing but never really found the time for. It's the invitation to really address how you cultivate for yourself creativity in your everyday life, so you start to experience more happiness, more joy, more pleasure, because it is okay, believe it or not, to take time out for yourself, to enjoy rest. And it is your birthright to rest. It is your birthright to experience joy, abundance, all that good stuff. Because if I haven't said it so far, I'll say it again. My work and what I support women around is wellness, happiness, and mental fitness, the mindset, to help with the aspects of life that can be challenging, because we can't avoid challenge, and we can't, to a degree, avoid stress, because lifing, so that you focus on what is important, what is serving you, and let go of the rest intentionally. So like I said, I mentioned AI because an example of what I'm going to come to as the third skill is AI machines have no feelings and no sense of being, but can do things. Why is that important? The human experience and our human beingness, the feeling of what we do is as important as the goal. Always remind yourself, being takes time. Time to breathe, time to be. I'll say that again. Being takes time. Time to breathe, time to be. So therefore, if you're always doing, it robs you of those things if it's misdirected, which can lead to burnout, because you're doing too many things that are not fulfilling you, not serving a purpose, and you create anger and resentment, which will ultimately reside in the body and cause disease. So I hope you take on board the seriousness in which I'm stating to prioritise your health, which is the new wealth. So it kind of comes on to a side note. It's the how, not the what, that's important. It's the how, which is, again, I invite you to take some time, watch the previous lives so you can see the thread, because the thread is helping you to practice presence, the here and now, because that's all that matters, the here and now. Creativity, so embracing more pleasure, more enjoyment, more fulfillment, and you're doing without any specific goal or it being or looking a certain way. So you can start to create for yourself ways that you can potentially pivot, because of the situation we're going to ultimately find ourselves in, as certain roles within companies diminish. What can I do instead? Can I start that business idea that I've been thinking about for years, but for some reason feel blocked or stopped in doing so, instead of utilising time that I would otherwise spend in busyness doing things that actually I shouldn't be doing because I do it out of habit, really to look at what's there for you as I express myself, because I was there not so long ago. I was doing a lot of things, but it actually wasn't creating the results that I desired or wanted in life. And I'm speaking from experience about resentments and anger, and I really don't want that for you. So I'm going to move on to the next bit, which is 99% of your life is how you respond to it. So it's not really about the event. So if, God forbid, you're placed in a position where I've been placed in this position 3 times, redundancy, and each time I've navigated tricky waters in recovering my confidence, my self-esteem, and also acceptance that certain things weren't going to work out for me that I planned 5 years ago. And by utilising the skills that I'm sharing with you, I got to a place where I was able to redesign my life in a way that suited me best, not the life people thought that I should be or must be participating in, because it wasn't right for me. It's okay if it's right for other people, but we're all unique individuals, and sometimes life is about leaning into what's important to you rather than propping up and acquiescing to things that are really not for us, but we do it because out of obligation, out of demands placed on us. So a key aspect of what I'm expressing here is you're going to face time pressures and life is going to get in your way. So if you take some time out to reflect on what I'm saying and consider a different perspective, opening your mind to another way of doing things, you can then see that it's not the events that you experience, it's what you make them mean. And unfortunately, we're meaning-making machines, and I'll come on to the relevance of that later on, so that you start to, again, pick up on what you resonate, let go of anything that doesn't, that is okay, and you start to see things from a perspective that you do not need to be rushed. You can let go of succumbing to a false sense of urgency, because I mentioned on previous lives about impulsivity and reactivity. Mindfulness helps with those things. Again, talking about myself, when I learned about how my anxiety sat in my body and how I was breathing, I wasn't actually recognised, because I can remember about 7 or 8 years ago I was having vocal cord problems. It's all linked. This is what I'm saying about the body. The body keeps the score. And I was struggling with my vocals. I was struggling to speak, and a lot of it was down to how I was breathing. I wasn't breathing into my belly. I wasn't recognising that I was breathing into my shoulders because of the heaviness, the weight of what I was carrying, because of the stuff I couldn't let go of, the unprocessed emotions. I've mentioned a lot on the last live, the traumas that I experienced that I hadn't yet dealt with. I wasn't equipped to face it back then, because I didn't even know that stuff was there. So mindfulness is helpful in practicing the pause that impacts your thinking. So I'm giving you a clue there to this skill. And again, I'll mention it because it's not actually something that's taught in school. Obviously, I've left school a long time ago, and that is okay. But I'm now in the school of life and the school of life, which life's whether I participate or not, I now recognise consciously, and I'm working on you could say counterintuitive, but also creating spaciousness so that I know I'm not giving away my power. I'm not giving away my power. I'm reclaiming it. I'm redirecting it so that I'm choosing wisely, day to day, moment to moment. And you can't do that if you're outsourcing your thinking and you're not even aware of how you're doing it. And I'll give you an example. I find it really interesting how you've got GPT, I think it's called, or you've got tools that enable you to write content. Remember what I said earlier, AI is a machine, it doesn't have feelings. It's got no sense of being. Like I said, technology is not designed to support or make space for your rest. So the counterintuitive advice that I'm giving you makes more sense. Why? Taking some time out to cultivate what you need to of the things that I'm sharing with you will enable you to navigate this drive of hyper productivity, the outsourcing of thinking, because again, you've got AI writing content, it's not going to be the same. It doesn't access the feelings of humans. So, and a quick word on skill. I've said it in a number of ways. I'm going to say it in a slightly different way. Acquiring a skill is necessary to repeat certain actions, but learning takes place unconsciously. So what I'm alluding to is repetition is key. Skills can be learned. Creativity, you're not born with it. Mindfulness, not necessarily skilled, and it's not taught again in schools. There might be some schools that practice it in a different, may not call it that. But again, like I said, you really got to find the ways in which the invitation for you to look inwards. So this is introspection, the ways that you could be possibly giving your power away and succumbing to urgency, impulsivity and reactivity, which is normal, but you have the opportunity to course correct if you desire, certainly to overcome challenge, and certainly if you want to up level and do more with what is possible and available to you. So it's understanding you need to give yourself patience, you need to offer yourself compassion, give yourself that permission so you're more mindful and less mindless. So the skill I'm going to go into is critical thinking, but I think it's first helpful to get an understanding of the ways your decision making could be impacted if you're not aware, bringing the unconscious to conscious. You bring it to light so that you can start to work on and through it, and you can do some reflection to see if any of what I listed are unhelpful thinking habits that you have developed over the years and never considered the impact it's having on the choices, the decisions you're making, and therefore the outcomes and the results. Because if you want better results, if you want better outcomes, you have to change. You can't keep on doing the same thing expecting a different result. Take it from somebody who knows, I'm in my 50s now, and learning this has been a very painful process. And if I had the time again, I would have perhaps invested more time into uncovering the skills that actually weren't taught in schools that would hold me in good stead now. But it's okay, I'm here now, and that's why I'm offering this is game, as some say, or content, free content, so that you start to see that it's okay. It's not your fault. It's part of how we've experienced life up until now, and we can make the adjustments, we can make changes. So the unhelpful thinking habits I would invite you to reflect on are as follows. There's quite a fair few more, but I'm going to go back to my lived experience and also the experience from coaching clients, because I used to coach both men and women. I now focus on women, particularly caregivers, mothers. That doesn't mean to say I don't work with single women or a lady in a relationship. That I'm not saying that, but those who I lean into because of a lot of the experience I have had, and also what I've seen modelled, and I can recognise it in others. So you have critical self. I've talked about it on previous lives. You might connect to when I talk about the inner critic. Shoulds and musts. There is a live or a video. I covered this on Instagram. I don't think I put it on Facebook. I probably did. It was some time ago. I would invite you to revisit that. I might, if I have time, try and find that, because I know that's not on YouTube. I don't think it is. So that might be a note to myself to re-record that. Memories, basically your past experiences. What's not necessarily recognised is we tend to make references to our past without realising it. So that's important to understand, because it's kind of like, think of it as recognising a memory and seeing what you can do to reframe it, so you're taking the emotional charge out of the experience. And this is where I'm going to mention NLP, timeline therapy, something I offer for this reason, to help reframe and move my client forward into what is wanted rather than reflecting what is not wanted. Because unfortunately what you focus on grows. So if you're always focused on an experience that you don't want to happen again, you're not actually paying attention to what you do want to happen, and the subconscious will reference the past instead of the future unless you do some work to overcome it. So I can help with that. Judgment of self, judgment on others, and compare and despair. So that's critical self, shoulds and musts, memories, judgment, compare and despair. So I'll give you a bit of explanation to help you see if any of those that I mention because they tend to happen or occur before or during distressing situations, so that once you notice them, you can then help yourself to challenge or distance yourself from those thoughts and see the situation from a different, more helpful way, which is what I do as a coach when I'm mirroring back to the client what's on their mind, so we kind of sift through it and find the gold, so that we can start to understand how what is being bumped up against. So the obstacle is often the way, so to speak. So I'm going to go with critical self. So it's putting yourself down, self-criticism, blame ourselves for events or situations that are not totally our responsibility. So a good question to ask yourself is, would most people really know me to say, sorry, I'll start again. Is this something that I'm totally responsible for example? Is this something I'm totally responsible for? Shoulds and musts. Thinking or saying I should or I shouldn't, I must, put pressure on ourselves and sets up unrealistic expectations. And that can also be of others too. So a good question to ask, if that's what your experience is, am I putting too much pressure on myself? Am I setting myself up to fail or to do the impossible? Something to mull over there. Another one, judgment. Making evaluations or judgments about events, ourselves, others, or the world, rather than describing what we actually see and have evidence for. So I'll say it again. Making evaluations or judgments about events, ourselves, others, or the world, rather than describing what we actually see and have evidence for. That's a good one, I think, because I would suggest that we operate in a lot of delusional thinking, and some of it is judgments about how people should behave, things like expecting people to be nice to you. I'm afraid people don't have to. Even I was surprised at that one. When I acknowledged that, I then recognised, well, they don't have to be nice to me, but I still have a choice whether I interact with them. They can't take that decision away from me. So, moving on. Memories. Current situations and events can trigger upsetting memories, leading us to believe that the danger is here and now rather than in the past, causing us distress right now. Sorry, I just realised I'm going to go back to judgments because I forgot about a question you can pose yourself. Is there another perspective you can, when you make a judgment, a different perspective different from my own? Have I got all the evidence that I need to make an evaluation that is in line with the best course of action? So, and then we return to memories. I'll say it again. Current situations and events can trigger upsetting memories, leading us to believe that the danger is in the here and now rather than in the past, causing us distress now. I mentioned last week that when my mother passed away, it did trigger memories that are long forgotten about, that did cause was heavy, was a lot, and I did have to, I did choose to work with a professional to help navigate some of the stuff that I didn't have answers for. So I was getting wise. And again, as a coach, I help with that, and I found it very useful, some of which I can reframe, some of it was acceptance so that I can let it go. So I mentioned the unhelpful habits so that you can see what might be getting in your way, blocking you from making decisions that are in your best interest, or are holding you back because you're not taking action because you've got action, or you're not in action, and they both carry a set of consequences. I can't stress that enough. So the invitation, as always, is to, like I said, challenge yourself and distance yourself from the thoughts so that you start to see it from a more helpful way, a different perspective, and seek to cultivate alternative thoughts, more helpful thoughts. So why does it have anything to do with wellness? What does it have to do with wellness? Sorry, I phrased that incorrectly. Everything. Because if you've got an unhelpful thinking pattern, habits, it can lead to serious mental health issues. Not only that, it can lead to decision making that could create situations or events that you didn't want and somehow didn't understand how you got there because you weren't properly considering what needed to be considered. So it's engaging the emotion plus logic with reasoning to have rational thought or thoughts, so that you can, again, I mentioned it earlier, you can improve on this, you can learn the skill and attain better results, better outcomes for yourself, and certainly when it comes to your health and wellness. So you start to prioritise differently and start to recognise what is serving you, what isn't, and let the damn thing go. So I'm coming towards the end now. So critical thinking basically allows you to question, analyse, interpret, evaluate and make judgment about what you read, hear, say and write. And this is including of others. I mentioned on previous lives that it's really important you care about what you're consuming. It's not just the food you eat, what you're letting into your mind, certainly what's going into the subconscious, or understanding and working with your subconscious so that you're putting in more positive content after you sifted out what you need to unlearn and put back in relearn, because otherwise it's like topping up what's already full of junk. It's letting go of the junk, cleaning up house, cleaning up your garden. It's really that meaty stuff, because your subconscious will always outpace the conscious. It's really important because it's a terminator. It will execute any existing programs. And this matters because of your beliefs, what you believe about yourself and what you believe about others, because words have magic. And time again, because of my introspection and retrospection work, because I've been doing it long enough now, I recognise, I can now see the causation from what I was thinking or what I had held as beliefs that were getting me the results that I was getting, and I wasn't moving forward because I wasn't necessarily aware they were there. And when I was aware, I needed to do some work to choose better beliefs so that my thinking got cleaned up. It got more critical about what I was consuming, even from others, with discernment. So I'm going to say the Greek word kifkos. I may have pronounced it incorrectly, so I'll spell it. It's K-I-F-I-K-O-S. So critical thinking is able to judge, to discern. So aspects of critical thinking, what it opens up for you: open-mindedness as opposed to closed-mindedness. You know, you don't know it all. Be teachable. Beginner's mindset works. Even if you know everything in your field of expertise, I would invite you to just consider for one moment, how true is it that you know everything? Because the more I know is the more I realise I don't know. So when I think I know it all, I remind myself I don't, and to challenge myself to be teachable and to encourage myself to go back to day one, see it from somebody else's perspective, and perhaps I might learn something from it. And I've been introduced to so many different people that I would not have considered, and read very different books. I've widened my reading. Even authors that I would have been like, oh, I was a bit judgmental about what they were writing about, but it helped me to understand human behaviour and sociology, so that I can understand better some of the challenges experienced by my clients, so that I can help provide practical tools, I got there in the end, to open up a different way of thinking about some problems they were experiencing that were recurring in nature and hadn't been addressed because it was unprocessed emotions. So again, it's also respecting the evidence and reasoning. And I'll give you an example. When I reviewed my relationships and my relational experiences, I got to observe, not absorb, how I was being responded to and also how I was being treated. And that informed a lot of my decisions because it was no longer based on what people just said. I needed it backed up in action and also consistency. So when I felt that there wasn't safety in an individual or groups, I then made my adjustments, and that is also available to you when you start to apply critical thinking, because then you start to really see some people, that's who they are. You can't change them, nor is it your job. You can only change yourself and how you're responding to the experience of them, and move accordingly, and to respect with clarity and precision your decision making, so you're making better choices to improve your life, not continue to dig yourself into a hole that is even harder to get out of. Because trust me, the work I've done, I wouldn't want you to take as long. That's why I became a coach. I can get you there quicker. So again, critical thinking means you're making more informed decisions, and you're guided to make better decisions. So again, you're making informed decisions, and you're also guided to make decisions. So what things can I work on to build up my critical thinking muscle? Well, I've already explained kind of what it is: open-minded, evidence, but also to receive and give feedback. If you've ever participated in job appraisals, you know what that's like. So maybe ask somebody that you trust for feedback on how they perceive you. I would perhaps put some frameworks around that, so you're not necessarily inviting a lot of criticism. It needs to be balanced. Very important that. But it will able you to sift out what's relevant, what isn't important. Sift out what's relevant, what isn't irrelevant, what maybe you're not aware of that could be getting in your way and getting moving you away from your goal instead of moving you towards it. Evaluate multiple and conflicting arguments. Again, I'll mention I've started to read different authors, and I've widened the net, the stuff I've read, including scientific bodies of work, research, trainings, so that I can draw some conclusions, engaging another part of my brain, so I'm not just taking verbatim what I'm hearing or what I'm seeing. I'm challenging it a bit more. How true is that? And anybody that encourage you down a particular line of thinking will probably have a vested interest in doing so. So it might be worth considering, can I observe more and take on board a conflicting opposite argument and see what that gives me, see how that sits with you. You also, I would invite you to question your existing beliefs, both your own and others. I can't stress that enough. So that you can move away from faulty thinking. The faulty thinking, I mentioned the unhelpful thinking styles. So that's it. I think that's covered everything that I wanted to cover. If you've got any questions, do send me a message or a personal DM. Do like, comment and share this video. I find that very useful for the algorithms. If you haven't had a chance to do so, please do subscribe to my YouTube channel. It is on the link tree. I'd really appreciate support. Maybe watch a few videos there. Comment. A like doesn't cost anything. I really appreciate it because it helps me to reach those, reach people that I'm here to help, support. So again, thank you for your time. I hope you found it useful, and I look forward to catching you next week.